What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Book entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father. Amazon Kindle Create Space. The link's always in the description box below. Um, Smart guns. Pros and cons. Some of y'all don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm going to educate y'all. So they're trying to get into smart guns. You know, like your smartphone. It's for you and you alone. You know, whether you use your phone and it takes your code or numerical password or your fingerprint. Pretty much the same thing with a smart gun. The gun is used can only be used by you or the user that has the, let's just say, the passcode, whether it's a fingerprint, whether it's a chip. It won't fire unless you got that. So there, to me, there's pros to this, there's cons to this. Um, the pros would be, it really is gonna eliminate, for the most part, um, kids playing with guns and hurting somebody. So if you have a gun in your house and the gun it goes by fingerprints or something like that, then your kid can play with your gun. I wouldn't advise a kid to play with a gun, but if you know how kids get in this stuff and then they start, oh, pow, 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 they get you, mess around, shoot somebody. There have been stories. That's pretty much a story every year about a kid either shooting a sibling or their parent, or uh, maybe an instructor or something. Because they were using a gun, and they shouldn't have been because they were kids. You know, which really does a lot of that helps that kind of puts that to a zero probability, because you're not gonna say, if it was a fingerprint, your kid ain't you're not gonna give your kid something with your fingerprints on it so they can shoot your gun. It's just not gonna happen. you know the con of that would be, if it's only one fingerprint. What if you actually somebody needs to use your gun to defend themselves? They can't, because you know they don't have a gun. The gun is a smart gun. It just won't let you do it. you know so I guess maybe they would have a three to, I don't multiple people fingerprints should be able, I guess, would have to be recognized on that gun. you know the other thing, as a pro about it, pro and con, one of the other pros about it is, it it takes a lot of illegal guns off the streets if they were to make smart guns like a mandatory thing. In a sense, because now criminals will have to have a whole nother market to crack phones to be able to use them, and you don't want to use smart guns because, say, it got to have your fingerprints on it. You don't want to use them guns, because if you toss that kind of gun, it still got your prints on it. So you don't want it to begin with. Thus, you don't want that kind of gun. Now, the ones with the chip, that's a whole other different story. That's what I mean by the con of that, is that criminals are gonna find a way around it, whether they make a universal fingerprint, or crack the chip code, and anybody could use it at a particular point. Because I doubt they'll go for the guns with the fingerprints, and more so go with the ones with the chips on them. But that's just my opinion. Also, pros and cons. I think I'm gonna start with a con on this one. The con would probably be the fingerprinting part of it, because it's just my opinion. Even with smartphones, I don't use my fingerprint for my phone, because I'm not about to give the phone company my fingerprints. I'm not finna pay you for a pay somebody for a cell phone and give you my fingerprints. Like, yeah, that's a little too intrusive to me. Because don't think that's not what's happening with fingerprints. Because I mean everything is so digital, and in this information age, you can even see how advertising is so personal that people know what you on the internet browsing, and they send you specific advertisements to stuff that you've been browsing. So the same thing with the fingerprints. Like, why would you need my fingerprints? What the hell are you doing to want my fingerprints? you know it's just a con to me. But like the pro to that would be everybody's, if you live in clean, everybody's traceable. It's not a big deal if you ain't doing nothing that's out of pocket or illegal. I mean, at the same time, that's invading on your privacy. I mean, but you know, for people who keep it clean and have nothing to hide, it's not really a big deal. You know, actually, um, probably the pro that would be it'd stop the crime of people getting sentenced or convicted of crimes they didn't commit, because once again, look, man, my prints are already in the system. I ain't used this gun. you know, wasn't me. It wasn't me. Let the gun to tell you the story. It wasn't me. Because I'm sure if the gun fires, at some point they're gonna tell you the time it fired and the prints of the person who fired it. So you know, kind of saves people from crime. Uh, a pro and a con probably would be price. I think when they first come out with these guns, they're going to be pricey, and only certain people will be able to afford them. And that's the con. Only certain people will be able to afford them. So until the price drops, you won't see the you won't see it actually in circulation. And I think I think that's going to affect the gun trading for the most part, because I think people like just not gun shows, but I think it in a positive way is going to affect trading, because people won't be able to just buy massive amounts of guns or purchase guns and give them to other people for illegal activity or just secretive activity. But I think the con of that is, you know, is going to drive up the price of conventional guns, because you don't need all of this. You don't need, you just pass the gun off to another person. You don't need a chip. You don't need your prints. So that's my pros and cons about that. Honestly, overall, I think it's a good idea. But every good idea has pros and cons. So we out.